One can hurt you after this, and you will keep calm always. Listen closely. What I'm about to tell you will separate you from the herd forever. You've been living with a target on your back. Every day, people watch you. They probe for weakness. They test your boundaries. And when they find a crack, they dig in. But here's what Machiavelli understood that most never will. Pain is a choice, not the event itself. The event will come. Betrayal will come. Loss will come. But the hurt, that's optional. You've been taught to feel your feelings, to process every slight, to give everyone the power to wound you. That's not wisdom, that's slavery. The moment you realize that no insult can touch you without your permission, you become dangerous, not dangerous to others, dangerous to control. Comment below right now, I am untouchable. See, most people are puppets. Pull this string, they dance. Push that button, they explode. Predictable, controllable, weak. Machiavelli wrote The Prince in prison, stripped of everything, yet his mind remained his fortress. That's the secret. Your mind is the only territory that matters. When someone tries to hurt you, they're attempting a transaction. They offer poison, hoping you'll drink it, but you don't have to accept their gift. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to carry every insult you're handed. You don't have to bleed from every cut they try to make. This is where your transformation begins. Right here, right now, the illusion of power. They think they have power over you. They don't. Every person who's ever hurt you believed they controlled something valuable. Your peace, your confidence, your emotional state. They were wrong. They controlled nothing. You handed it to them. Let that sink in. The bully, the backstabber, the manipulator, they had zero power. You gave them the keys to your fortress and watched them burn it down. Machiavelli observed that men are moved by two things, love and fear, but there's a third force they missed, indifference. True, calculated indifference is the ultimate power move. When you stop reacting, you stop losing. Dark psychology teaches that emotional vampires feed on your response. Remove the response, you starve them out. They rage harder at first. They escalate. They can't believe their weapon no longer works. Watch them panic. Watch them lose their minds while you remain perfectly still. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming selective. You choose what affects you. You decide what deserves your emotional energy. Everything else? Static, noise, irrelevant. Comment below, I choose my battles. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius led an empire while people plotted against him daily. His response, you have power over your mind, not outside events. He didn't waste energy on things beyond his control. Your emotions are the last, unconquered territory in a world that wants to own everything about you. Your job is simple. Become the gatekeeper. Station guards at every entrance. Question every feeling before you let it in. Does this anger serve me? Does this hurt make me stronger? Does this reaction move me toward my goals? If the answer is no, you close the gate. You don't debate. You don't explain. You simply refuse entry. This is sovereignty. This is freedom. This is power they can never take from you. Part 3, the anatomy of invincibility. Now we go deeper into the mechanism itself. Understand this. Vulnerability isn't a virtue. It's a liability. The world taught you to be open and share your feelings. That's how they farm you. That's how they keep you controllable. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn not to be good, not evil, just strategically detached from naive goodness. Because good men who broadcast their weaknesses get destroyed by those who don't play by the same rules. You've seen it. The honest person gets backstabbed. The trusting person gets betrayed. The emotional person gets manipulated. This isn't pessimism. This is pattern recognition. So here's your new operating system. Reveal nothing that can be used against you. Your fears, private. Your insecurities, classified. Your soft spots, buried deep where only you have access. This doesn't mean you can't have feelings. It means you become the sole proprietor of your inner world. No one gets free tours anymore. Dark psychology reveals that manipulators are experts at finding your buttons and pushing them repeatedly. They study you. They remember what makes you flinch. They catalog your triggers like a weapons arsenal. Your defense? Make yourself unreadable. Develop what poker players call a stone face, but for your entire existence. When they push, nothing moves. When they probe, they hit walls. When they attack, they're shadowboxing. Comment below, "My mind is my fortress." The calm you project becomes your armor. Not fake calm, genuine indifference to their games. Because you've done the internal work. You've questioned every belief they installed in you. But what will people think? Who cares? Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to think about you for more than 3 seconds. But I'll seem cold. You'll seem powerful. There's a difference. But I'll be alone. Better to be alone and sovereign than surrounded and enslaved. Marcus Aurelius knew, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Read that again. The pain isn't real. Your interpretation of the pain is what bleeds you. Change the interpretation. Eliminate the wound. This is advanced. This separates those who merely survive from those who conquer. You're not here to survive. You're here to dominate your inner landscape so completely that external chaos becomes entertainment. Part 4. The calculated detachment. Let me tell you what they'll never teach you in therapy. Sometimes the answer isn't to work through pain. Sometimes the answer is to delete the program entirely. Machiavelli observed something crucial. The leader who shows too much empathy gets crushed by those who show none. This isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming strategic with your heart. You need to develop what I call emotional compartmentalization. It's a skill. Like any skill, it requires practice. You learn to separate what happens to you from what happens in you. Someone insults you. That's external, a fact in the world. Whether you internalize it as pain, that's internal. That's your choice. Most people skip this step. The insult happens, and they immediately let it penetrate their identity. Not you, not anymore. You create a buffer zone, a psychological demilitarized zone between the world and your core self. Everything must pass through inspection first. Does this deserve entry? Does this align with my reality? Does this serve my evolution? If not, rejected at the border, denied entry. Not with anger, not with debate, with calm, absolute authority. Comment below. I control the gate. Dark psychology teaches that reactive people are controllable people. The moment they can predict your response, you've lost. You become a machine they can operate. Press this button, get that reaction. Watch how people test you. They say something inflammatory, and watch your face. They cross a boundary and measure your response. They're calibrating. They're learning your algorithm. Your job is to become uncalibrated. Unpredictable, not through chaos, but through discipline. You respond when you choose to respond. You react when strategy demands it, not when emotion commands it. This is what separated Machiavelli from his contemporaries. While others reacted emotionally to political betrayal, he studied it. He wrote about it. He turned pain into philosophy and philosophy into power. You must do the same. Every wound is data. Every betrayal is education. Every disappointment is intelligence, gathering about how the world actually operates versus how you were told it operates. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization. They'd imagine the worst outcomes before they happened, not to torture themselves, but to remove the shock value. When the bad thing actually occurred, they'd already processed it mentally. No surprise, no devastation, just acknowledgement and adaptation. Start doing this. Before every interaction, visualize the worst it could go. Betrayal, rejection, humiliation. Now sit with it. Realize you'd survive it. More than survive. You'd extract lessons and become sharper. This removes their power preemptively. They can't hurt you with what you've already accepted as possible. You're building something here. A psychological immune system so sophisticated that toxicity can't take root. People will throw their worst at you and watch in confusion as nothing lands. That confusion, that's your victory. Silent, complete, and utterly devastating to those who need your reaction to feel powerful. Part 5. The architecture of dominance. Here's where most people fail. They think inner strength means suffering in silence. Wrong. Inner strength means not suffering at all. Machiavelli understood that perception shapes reality. If they believe they've hurt you, they've won, even if you feel nothing. If they believe you're untouchable, they won't even try. Your external presentation becomes a weapon. This is where cold power psychology enters. You cultivate an aura, not through aggression, not through arrogance, through unshakable certainty. Watch how apex predators move. No wasted energy, no unnecessary displays. Just quiet, contained power that everything else instinctively respects. That's your model now. When someone attacks you verbally, your face remains neutral. Not because you're suppressing rage, because you genuinely recognize the attack as irrelevant to your mission. It's like watching a child throw a tantrum. You don't get angry at a tantrum, you observe it with detached curiosity. This drives people insane. They escalate, they push harder, they can't compute why their weapons don't work anymore. Let them exhaust themselves against your walls. Every failed attack makes you stronger and them weaker. Comment below, chaos cannot touch me. Dark psychology reveals the truth about conflict. Whoever needs the outcome less has total control. The person desperate for your reaction is already defeated. The person indifferent to whether you stay or go holds all the cards. This is your new negotiating position with reality itself. You're not desperate for anything. Peace? You've built it internally, so you don't need external circumstances to provide it. Respect? You give it to yourself, so you don't need validation from others. Love? You've cultivated self-regard so deep that external affection is a bonus, not a necessity. See how this shifts everything. You're no longer negotiating from weakness. You're no longer a beggar at the table of life, asking for scraps of dignity. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But there's a level beyond this. It's better to be irrelevant to their opinion of you entirely. When their love or fear means nothing to your equilibrium, you've transcended the game. Most people are playing checkers, move and countermove based on what others do. You're playing a different game entirely. You're playing against yourself, improving daily, building systems, fortifying your mind. Everyone else is just scenery. This isn't sociopathy. Sociopaths lack empathy. You have empathy. You've just stopped letting it be weaponized against you. You can care about people without giving them power over your peace. You can love without becoming vulnerable to destruction. You can engage without becoming entangled. The Stoics called this sympathia, interconnection without attachment. You're part of the world, but not imprisoned by it. You participate, but don't depend. Marcus Aurelius commanded armies, but wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He led millions, but knew his only true domain was the 6 inches between his ears. That's your empire now. That's the territory you defend with ruthless precision. No invaders, no colonizers, no missionaries converting you to their religion of emotional chaos. You are the emperor of your inner world. You set the laws. You enforce the boundaries. You decide what's permitted and what's exile-worthy. And anyone who doesn't respect your sovereignty, they don't get access. Simple, final, non-negotiable. This is how you become untouchable. Not by building higher walls, but by removing the need for walls entirely. When there's nothing to defend because nothing can be taken, you've won. The psychology of the unmoved. Let's talk about what happens when you actually implement this. The real-world consequences of becoming psychologically invincible. First, people will panic. They're used to a version of you that responds predictably. That gets angry when provoked. That gets hurt when criticized. That crumbles under pressure. When that version disappears and this new fortress appears, they'll experience cognitive dissonance. They'll test you harder. This is guaranteed. Like an animal testing the bars of a cage, They'll push every button they remember working. Old insults, past traumas, guilt trips, manipulation tactics. They'll escalate because their entire understanding of you is collapsing. Do not break here. This is the crucible. This is where weak men return to their old patterns because the pressure becomes uncomfortable. You must understand something. Their discomfort with your transformation is not your problem to solve. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the danger of being too consistent. But there's one consistency that serves you. Consistency in your imperviousness. Be unpredictable in your strategies, but unmovable in your foundation. Comment below, I bend for no one. Dark psychology identifies this moment as extinction burst. When a behavior that used to get results suddenly stops working, the person performing it intensifies dramatically before finally giving up. You're witnessing their extinction burst. Your job is to outlast it. Stand there like stone. Let their storm rage. Let them exhaust every tactic. Let them scream into the void of your indifference. Eventually, they'll stop. They have to. No one can sustain an attack on something that refuses to register the attack. This is where masculine stoicism becomes practical power. Not the toxic, men don't cry nonsense. Real stoicism. The philosophy that says, external events are neutral until you assign them meaning. You are the meaning maker. You are the interpreter. You decide what hurts and what doesn't. Someone calls you a failure, they've spoken words into air. Those words have no inherent power. They're vibrations, sound waves. Unless you catch those words, internalize them, believe them, and give them residence in your mind, they're nothing. They dissipate like smoke. This is the secret they don't want you to know. You are complicit in your own suffering, not because you're weak, because you were programmed to be complicit, programmed to take in every criticism, programmed to absorb every negative opinion, programmed to let others define your reality. Break the program, reject the download, refuse the installation. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. They'd spend time imagining every terrible thing that could happen, not to be pessimistic, but to remove the emotional charge from outcomes. When you've already mentally rehearsed your business failing, your partner leaving, your reputation being destroyed, these events lose their power to devastate you. You've already died 1,000 deaths in your mind. What's one more in reality? This sounds dark. It is dark. But darkness isn't your enemy. Naivety is. False hope is. Unrealistic expectations are. These are the things that set you up for crushing disappointment. Instead, expect nothing. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. Remain unmoved by both success and failure. This is the ultimate freedom. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors the bold, but boldness without emotional regulation is just recklessness. True boldness comes from acting decisively while remaining internally detached from outcomes. You move with purpose, but without desperation. You pursue goals, but don't collapse when they don't materialize. This is the paradox. You care deeply about your mission while simultaneously being okay if it all falls apart. You give maximum effort while maintaining zero attachment to results. You play to win while being genuinely fine with losing. This isn't contradiction, this is mastery. Watch how this transforms your presence. People feel it. They can't articulate it, but they sense something has fundamentally changed. You're no longer playing their game. You're not even playing against them. You're playing a solo game where they're irrelevant NPCs in your world. Some will respect this, some will fear it, some will hate it. None of it matters. Their opinions are just more weather patterns in a world you no longer let determine your internal climate. You are the sun, constant, burning, unmoved by clouds. Part 7. The weaponization of silence. Now, we enter the most dangerous territory. The place where you transform from defender to strategist, from reactive to proactive, from protected to powerful. Silence is the most underrated weapon in human psychology. Not the silence of weakness, not the silence of someone who has nothing to say, the silence of someone who has everything to say but chooses strategically when to speak. Machiavelli knew that words are commitments. Every statement is a position you must defend. Every explanation is a weakness exposed. Every justification is an admission that you need their approval. The less you say, the less they have to use against you. Watch people self-destruct through over-explanation. They feel accused, so they defend. They feel misunderstood, so they clarify. They feel judged, so they justify. Each word digs them deeper. Each sentence hands their opponent more ammunition. You do the opposite. Someone accuses you? Silence. Someone demands explanation? Silence. Someone tries to provoke you into defending yourself? Silence. This isn't passive. This is active psychological warfare. Your silence forces them to fill the void. And people always fill voids with their own insecurities. They project. They assume. They reveal far more about themselves than you ever would have revealed about yourself. Comment below. My silence is power. Dark psychology teaches that the person asking questions controls the frame. But there's a deeper level. The person who doesn't need to ask anything controls the entire interaction. You already know what you need to know. Their approval, irrelevant. Their understanding, unnecessary. Their validation, meaningless. This drives certain people absolutely insane, especially those who derive power from making others explain themselves. Narcissists, manipulators, control freaks. They need you to engage. Your engagement is their food. Starve them. But here's the sophisticated part. You're not silent out of fear or avoidance. You're silent out of strategy. You speak when it serves you. You engage when there's a purpose. The rest of the time, conservation of energy. The Stoics understood energy management. Seneca wrote about the poverty of time. Every word you speak defending yourself to people who don't matter is time stolen from building what does matter. Every argument you entertain is energy diverted from your actual mission. Calculate the ROI of every interaction. Will responding to this insult move me closer to my goals? Will defending myself to this person create any value? Will winning this argument change anything meaningful? If the answer is no, the response is silence. Not grudging silence, not bitter silence. Peaceful, powerful, deliberate silence. Machiavelli wrote that one should never attempt to win by force what can be won by fraud. But there's an even higher level. Never attempt to win what isn't worth winning. Most battles people fight daily are completely worthless. Ego battles, status battles, who's right battles. Let them win. Let them think they've defeated you. While they're celebrating their hollow victory, you're building empires in silence. While they're addicted to the dopamine of winning arguments, you're focused on winning at life. This is the long game. This is thinking in decades while they think in moments. This is strategizing campaigns while they fight skirmishes. You become a ghost, present but untouchable, visible but unreachable. They see you but can't figure you out. This ambiguity is your shield. The moment they think they understand you, they'll try to control you. Stay mysterious. Stay undefined. Stay categorically resistant to their labels and boxes. Marcus Aurelius commanded legions but rarely raised his voice. His power came from certainty, not volume. His authority came from character, not theatrics. He understood that true power whispers, desperation screams. When you stop defending yourself, something miraculous happens. You stop needing defense. The attacks continue, but they pass through you like light through glass, present but unaltered, visible but unaffected. This is molecular-level transformation. You're changing the fundamental composition of how you interact with reality. You're no longer a solid that can be struck and damaged. You're becoming water, fluid, adaptive, impossible to wound because there's nothing solid to wound. Bruce Lee said to be like water, not just in movement, but in psychology. Water doesn't argue with the rock. It doesn't defend itself against the cliff. It simply flows around obstacles, persistent and patient, knowing that given enough time, it will reshape everything in its path. That's your new operating system. Argue with nothing. Defend against nothing. Simply flow toward your objectives with such consistency that all resistance eventually erodes. People will call this cold. Let them. People will call this heartless. Let them. People will call this wrong. Let them. Their commentary is just noise. Background static in a life you're conducting like a symphony. You are the composer now. You decide which notes play. You decide which instruments get featured. You decide when the silence is more powerful than any sound. And in that decision, in that sovereignty, you become absolutely, unquestionably, permanently untouchable. Part 8. The reconstruction of self. Here's what nobody tells you about becoming untouchable. You have to kill who you used to be, not metaphorically, actually, deliberately, ruthlessly. The old you, the one who got hurt easily, who needed validation, who crumbled under criticism, that person has to die. You can't evolve into strength while carrying the corpse of weakness. You can't become a fortress while leaving the doors unlocked out of nostalgia. Machiavelli understood that transformation requires violence, not against others, against the outdated versions of yourself. Every belief that no longer serves you is an enemy. Every habit that makes you vulnerable is a traitor. Every emotional pattern that leaves you exposed is a cancer. Cut it all out. No anesthesia, no gentle transitions, radical reconstruction. This is where most people fail. They want to become strong while keeping their comfort zones. They want to be untouchable while maintaining relationships with people who need them to be touchable. They want transformation without sacrifice. Impossible. Physics doesn't work that way. Psychology doesn't work that way. Reality doesn't work that way. You want to stop being hurt? Stop being the person who can be hurt. Not by building walls, by fundamentally changing your internal architecture. By rewiring how you process input, by reprogramming your responses at the operating system level. Comment below, I am being reborn. Dark psychology reveals something crucial. Your identity is not fixed. It's a story you tell yourself, and stories can be rewritten. The you who got devastated by betrayal last year was a character in a narrative you authored. Author a different narrative. Cast a different character in the lead role. This isn't fake. This isn't pretending. This is conscious evolution. This is taking authorship of your own psychological development instead of letting circumstances write your story for you. The Stoics practiced this daily. Epictetus was born a slave, literally owned by another human. Yet he became one of history's greatest philosophers because he understood that external circumstances don't define internal reality. He chose his identity independent of his situation. You have more freedom than Epictetus ever had. You're not enslaved. You're not imprisoned. You're not physically constrained. The only chains you wear are the ones you've accepted. The only prison you occupy is the one you've built from false beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of. Machiavelli wrote The Prince as a manual for power, but the real power move isn't controlling others. It's controlling yourself so completely that others become irrelevant to your stability. When your peace doesn't depend on their behavior, you've won a game they don't even know they're playing. Start here. Identify every person who has power over your emotions. Write them down. Now ask yourself why. Why does their opinion matter? Why does their approval register? Why does their criticism land? Usually, you'll find it's not about them at all. It's about childhood wounds, parental dynamics, early rejection, past trauma. You're not actually reacting to them. You're reacting to ghosts wearing their faces.